Out of all the teams left in the college football playoff, I think Ohio State stands the most to win the national championship. When you look at some of these other teams like Boise State, Penn State, Notre Dame, Arizona State, I think those teams are playing with house money. Nobody thought that they would be contending for a national championship. And then look at the Blue Bloods here. Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State. I think those teams expect national championship contention. But when you look at the way the bracket plays out, Georgia is playing without their quarterback right now in Carson Beck. Oregon plays Ohio State here in the second round. If Ohio State can win this game versus Oregon, they have a clear shot to make and win the national title. And I think that would be the absolute icing on the cake for Ryan Day, who has faced unreal criticism from the fan base there at Ohio State. I understand the criticism, I get it, but look at his resume. Coming in 2019, he goes undefeated in the regular season. He plays a very close game in the college football playoff to Clemson and loses. That is not a knock on Ryan Day. 2020, and not to mention in 2019, they beat Michigan. In 2020, Ohio State comes in during the COVID year. A lot of teams like Michigan struggle severely, yet Ryan Day gets his team all the way to the national championship game. And yes, he gets blown out by Alabama, but look at that Alabama team. They are undefeated in that season. They have the Heisman winner, and I think that's probably a top 10 team of all time when you look at the talent that went to the next level. Then, moving forward from 2021 to now, Ohio State has hit a rough patch in terms of being able to win college football playoff games and beating their rival Michigan. They've lost 4 straight now, especially this last one was one of the big hitters when they lose to a 7-5 Michigan. Pretty unacceptable. But look where Ohio State is at right this moment. They have blown the doors off of Tennessee. They have a chance to get revenge against one of the teams that they lost to in the 2024 regular season in Oregon. I think they have a better chance than most people are giving them credit for. I think their offense is much more explosive than people like to talk about. I know people love to laud J.J. Smith, but the rest of this Ohio State team is just unbelievably talented. And that's with saying that they had one of their best players out for the season, and Seth McLaughlin, the center of the year, is gone. I think Ohio State still has the most talented roster in the playoff. Should they win it all? I think so. But should they talk about firing Ryan Day after this? Absolutely not. I don't think that the Ohio State fan base understands what it's like to lose your coach in Urban Meyer and then receive a blessing in Ryan Day, who continues to put you in spots to win national championships. Does he win the big one? Not yet. But I think if you give him another 10 years and he continues to make the playoffs at least 8 of those years, he'll win at least 1 or 2 national titles. And get this, Ryan Day is only 45 years old. I understand that there's all this kind of pressure on coaches that are young now to win the national title. I mean, Kirby Smart didn't win one until he was in his 50s, I believe. But hey, if you're not winning national titles after 4 or 5 years in your program, you must be a failure, right? I think that the criticism for Ryan Day is completely overblown. It's overproportioned. It's just unrealistic to ask a coach to beat your rival every single year and compete for national championships while you have to face top-tier talent week in and week out. When you look at who Ohio State has faced so far this year, they have faced number 1 Oregon, they faced number 6 Penn State, and then they faced number 9 Tennessee. Those are extremely hard games, and Ryan Day is 2-1 in them. And then on top of this, he beat the greatest team in Indiana football history by 2.5 touchdowns. That's very impressive stuff. I think Ohio State has been able to compete at this level because what Ryan Day is able to do both on the field and in recruiting. Think about what this Ohio State team is. They were able to pull away Seth McLaughlin and Caleb Downs from Alabama, bring them to the program. The NIL is there. I don't know if it would be there when you fire a great coach like Ryan Day and try to replace him with somebody else. And then on top of this, Ohio State fans, if you plan on firing Ryan Day, who are you going to hire to replace him? We have seen coaches like Dan Lanning decline the Alabama job. Do you think he's going to leave Oregon to come to Ohio State? Kirby Smart is staying at Georgia. It's his alma mater. He's not leaving. I can't think of another great young coach that you wouldn't be taking a massive gamble on to come to your program. Like, take, for example, Kenny Dillingham, great young head coach. But will he be able to take a program like Arizona State, who is not by any means one of the better programs in the country, and then move to Ohio State and continue this national championship contention type performance? I don't think so. I think Kenny Dillingham's a great coach. But on top of that, he's at his alma mater. I don't think he's leaving. I can't think of another great young coach that's in a spot to come take the Ohio State job. I mean, maybe you could pull Lincoln Riley away from USC, but look what Lincoln Riley's been doing over the last couple of years. Really underperforming. Ryan Day is the best coach for Ohio State right now. I think he's the best coach for Ohio State for the next 10 to 15 years. I really am shocked that a team that continues to make college football playoffs and contend for Big Ten championships is somehow on the fence about firing their coach. I get the 4 losses to Michigan in a row, but that will not be something that is sustained. I think that Michigan went for broke this year. They had nothing to lose. Ohio State was playing with house money. They tried to play a physical game like Michigan loves to play, and they did not succeed. I think that team succeeds 90 out of 100 times when they play Michigan in the shoe. So when you think about where the Buckeyes are going forward, I think it's continued success, especially with Ryan Day. That being said, a lot of pressure is on him to beat Oregon. And if he wins a national title, I hope he goes on a media revenge tour and finds Ohio State fans around the country, brings them on to these radio shows, TV shows, and talks to them about expectation management and performance under pressure, because nobody understands what it's like to be at a top 5 blue blood college football program, win 10 or 11 games a year, make the college football playoffs, and still receive unreal criticism about the job that you're doing and then threats to his job. We have seen Ohio State fans take this to a completely new level. And as an Alabama fan, I get it. I am extremely disappointed in the performance of Alabama this season, 9-3. However, I don't think we need to fire Kalen DeBoer just yet, because the expectation management is set in place. Alabama was not going to win a national title this year. Alabama was probably not going to make a college football playoff run. Did they have the talent to do it? Yes, they did. But was the system in place to do so? Not necessarily. Same with Ohio State. The system is in place, the players are in place. Yet, the national championship is not guaranteed. And I think that's the mindset that a lot of people need to understand. These are one-off playoff games. These are one-off regular season games. When you lose, it's over. It's not a 7-game playoff series. The better team doesn't always win in these games. Just ask any team from like a couple of seasons ago, like Michigan versus TCU in the 2022 playoffs. Michigan was far and away the better team versus TCU. If they rematch that game, I think Michigan wins 70 to 80% of the time. Yet TCU wins the day, and Michigan, it goes down as a failure, and Jim Harbaugh is facing all this pressure. And what does he do? He comes back and he wins a national championship game. I think give Ryan Day time. He's only 45. He's only been with this program now for 5 or 6 seasons. He is going to put it together. If Ohio State doesn't win it this year, I do think that it's fair to say, hey, Ryan Day, you got to beat Michigan next year if you want more job security. But I think that Ohio State's going to beat Oregon. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Merry Christmas to all.